Hey friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Connor Diblin. I'm a fourth year medical student at King's College London, and this rotation, this block, I'm doing obstetrics and gynecology at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital, also in central London. I hope you find this video useful. If you do, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. I've been posting a lot on my Instagram recently about all of the different things I get up to in a day, different things I've been learning. So if you're interested in seeing that, please do go and check it out. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's pretty hot topic in medicine. Really, it's something that we are made to do from even before you start applying to medical school right through to when you're working as a doctor, and that's reflection. If you're currently in the process of applying to medical school, you've probably been told that you should be reflecting in your personal statement. I think a lot of people don't really know what that means, and maybe even if you're a current medical student, you might have assignments where you've got to reflect on something you've seen, something you've done. So let's dig into that and see what that is and why we're doing it. Reflection is a really vital part of medicine, of studying medicine and of practicing medicine, and it's got loads of really good benefits. Reflection solidifies your learning, it helps you identify areas of mistake or areas of weakness, and it also encourages an awareness of your own mental health. So as I've already said, if you're applying to medicine currently, you're going to need to be reflecting in your personal statement. That means having a look at your experiences, say in work experience, if you manage to get some in person, maybe even just on virtual work experience, you need to reflect on that too. And this is your chance to show them that you've learned something from your experiences, that you've taken something away, that you've changed, and that you're able to look back and see how things have affected you. Once you're in medical school, you're going to have to carry on reflecting. It doesn't stop. So you're going to have to reflect on patients you've seen, you're going to have to reflect on your experiences in clinical environments, and you're going to have to reflect on even your own learning. For example, in my block, we've got to reflect on several cases. We're going to talk about what we've learned, how it affected us, how we performed when we were having to do a clinical skill or feedback to a doctor. And all of this is to help us with our learning and to solidify inside of us before we become practicing medical professionals that you need to be reflecting all of the time. So once you are a practicing doctor or other medical professional, you're going to have to be writing or reflecting about your experiences, your challenges that you face, any mistakes you made, and it's really important to help you grow as a professional. There really are no set rules for reflecting. It's a very personal experience, and so I think that's why lots of people can find it very hard to start. So I think when you are starting, it's good to set yourself some kind of structure, and we'll go through one of those in a minute. For some people, reflecting just takes the form of keeping like a journal. For other people, they want to do it in other forms. It could be poetry, it could be blogging, it could be a video diary that you keep. As long as you're doing something, that's what's important. Of course, if it's an assignment for medical school, you're going to need to do it in whatever structure or form they ask you to do it in. So how do you start reflecting? Well, first of all, you might have to start reflecting in various forms. You might have to try out a few different ways of reflecting and find one that works for you and find one that doesn't feel too forced, doesn't feel too awkward. A really good way of doing this might be to consider the different ways that you've learned to learn. If you've discovered that you learn best by taking written notes, then I think it's probably likely that you're going to reflect best in written notes as well. If you found that you're more of a visual learner, then I think you should try some kind of a visual medium for your reflection. Maybe you could come up with some storyboards, maybe you could do a video. When you do get the hang of it, reflecting and reflection can be interesting and fun. Most professionals say that they enjoy the time they spend reflecting, they find it really useful, and they think that it really gives them a purpose. If you're already a medical student, your university should be helping you through this process. You probably have some assignments, some courseworks where you've got to reflect, and these aren't just tick boxing exercises, they're really to drill into you that you need to be doing this. I have a set structure for how I like to reflect. I find that by following a structure that works for me, then I don't forget to include something, and I can really work through my thoughts in a more logical process. So I thought I'd share that with you today. I would really recommend following some sort of structured template. So my structure that I follow, what is the experience that I'm reflecting on? So what happened? What happened that made me feel like I need to reflect on something? Why have I chosen this experience to reflect on? What about this experience made me think, oh, I need to take a step back here and think, what can I learn from this? Key positives and negatives from this experience. You're never going to really have an experience that's entirely positive or negative. There are always going to be things you could have done better. There are always going to be things that you've done really well and you can be proud of yourself for. What would you do differently if you were now in the same position but in the future, knowing what you know? And on the same theme as that, what would you do the same? What would you repeat from what you've just done? And last but not least, are there any actions that you now need to take after having reflected on this experience? So that's a really key point here, and I think it's one that it's very important to take into your professional life. And that's that if you recognise that maybe something wasn't done, a task wasn't finished, a patient didn't receive the best care they could have, a mistake was made that wasn't picked up on at the time, having reflected on that, you now have an opportunity to go and rectify that. You now have an opportunity to go and finish whatever event that was. As someone applying to medical school, that might be that you're reflecting on your personal statement and you realise that you didn't quite have enough experience of what it's like to be a doctor. So maybe now, before you submit your application or you have your interview, you want to make sure that you cold email several doctors and ask them about what their life is like. Or maybe you're going to go and listen to some podcasts. As a medical student, it's really important that after reflecting on performing a clinical skill, or maybe you're reflecting on one of the little portfolio exercises you have to do, like a mini KEX or a case-based discussion, that reflection is there so that you can recognise the learning you still have to do to be able to be competent in that skill. Why should you start reflecting? Why is it good to get in this habit? Well, firstly, if you're planning on being a doctor registered in the GMC, you're going to need to. Reflecting is a vital part of both studying and practicing medicine. It's a great way to improve your learning in medical school, especially with clinical skills and in clinical placements. By reflecting on your time with patients, you can pick up on what you did well, what you didn't do. You can look at the opportunities that you took up, or maybe opportunities that you passed on, and you can have a look at the mistakes that you've made. By thinking more about what happened, you can work out what mattered to you about that event, what needs to change, and what you need to keep doing well. So reflecting on your experiences in clinical placements, particularly with patients, for example, can be fantastic to solidify your learning as a medical student and as a doctor. But there's one key thing you need to remember here, and that's to anonymize any reflections. Anything you write down, anything that's not in a specific patient's notes, needs to be anonymous. What we mean by this is the patient reading what you've written should not be able to tell that you're writing about them. To a lesser extent, but it's also important, this also needs to apply for any medical professionals that you're reflecting about. Maybe you've had an interaction with a nurse, a midwife, a doctor that you need to reflect on. It's important to anonymize that too. Again, that healthcare professional should be able to read what you've written and not know that you're speaking about them. You might find that there are times when some kind of patient information, something about their demographic is vital to what you're reflecting about, but it needs to be anonymized still. This means that, say, a patient's rough age, maybe their gender, might be something you could include in your reflection, but that's it. It is never appropriate to include a patient's name, one of their identifying numbers like NHS or hospital number. You can't include their date of birth, their address, no identifying characteristics or information in your notes. This chair is really loud.